Hi, in this video, we are going to see how to use optional. Optional is introduced during Java 8 release. So we'll see what is the use of optional. First, let us see without using optional what problem we face and how the optional is used to solve that problem. Okay, so we have a class called car. So this class has few instance variables, brand, model, and registration number. We have parameterized constructors, and we have setter and getter methods in this car class, and we have a show details method also. So now what we do in the main class, let us create a car object. So before going to do that, we also create a class called mechanic shop. So we have a class called mechanic shop, and inside this class we will have a method do service public void do service, and this method takes car as a parameter, and inside the do service method we call the show details method of the uh, car object. Okay, right. So now we have created a mechanic shop class, and this class has a method do service, and inside do service method has a parameter car, and inside do service method we call the show details method of the car object. Then we have code related to service. Okay. Now let us go to the main class, and inside the main method what we do is we will create a car object, car c equal to new car, and we pass the details like we need the we have to pass the brand, model, and registration number as arguments to the constructor of the car object. Okay, so let us do that now. So we have to have that brand as Honda, and model as city. Okay, then registration number, let us pass TN 22AH013. Okay, so this is the registration number for the car. So now we have created a car object. Now we create a mechanic shop object, mechanic shop m, okay, equal to new mechanic mechanic shop. So we have created the mechanic shop object. Then we call do service. Okay, we call the do service method and pass the object car object. Now let us run this code, and we'll see the output. It will print the car details because we called the show details method of the car object inside the do service method. Okay, so everything works fine. Now let us assume that declare a car we declare a car c1, and we haven't uh, created the object car object, so we are simply passing it. So what will happen in this case? Suppose we have car object which is null. So if we run this code, So what we are getting, so we get the exception, right? We get null pointer exception because inside the do service method we are calling the show details method of the car object, but the car object holding the null value, the car, that variable is holding null value, so we are getting null pointer exception. To avoid this null pointer exception, what we can do is we can use the optional actually like works like a container. Okay, it works like a container, like it works like for example, we suppose we have to do one thing here in the do service method. We have to change the parameter type as optional. Okay, then we need to import, right? We need to import it, and here what we have to do is in this main class we have to create the optional object. Okay, optional or o equal to optional has a method dot off nullable. So this off nullable, we have to pass the object we want to store it in the optional object, and this method, right? This method will return a optional with the object. If the car object is null, then it will return a empty optional. Okay, so that is how it works. So let us import, right? Let us import this optional. It is already imported. We will see what is the error. The method of nullable is undefined for the type main. Optional cannot be resolved to a variable. So here we do this way. We have to comment first this. We write optional dot of nullable, and we have to pass the car object. Okay, so now it is fine. So this off nullable method will return a optional, right? With having that object car object inside it. If the car object is null, it will return empty optional. Okay, so now what we have to do is we have to pass this optional object to this do service method, and inside the do service method what we need to do is we have to use a if condition. If o dot is present will return you true or false if the optional object contains the a not null value. If object is present, it will return, otherwise it will return false. If the optional is empty, it will return false. So by based on that we can run this. We can call the method show details here. Then we have to get that, we have to get the optional car object from the optional. So how to get that? So we have to get like rc equal to o dot, to call the get method. It will return you the car object, right? Okay, we have to use, here we have to use the uh, generics to avoid the problem. Okay, so now if it is else part, so if the optional is empty, what we do in this case, we have to print empty optional system dot out dot println. So we can print empty optional. Okay, so let us run this code and see the output now. Okay, let us now run this code. See, we can run the main class. So main class, what we have done here, we have created a car object. We have created a mechanic shop object. We call the off nullable method of optional and pass the car object. So if the car object is not null, then off nullable will return a optional with car object. Otherwise, it will return a optional with the empty. Then we pass the optional to the do service method of the mechanic shop object. Inside mechanic shop object do service method, we call the is present method of the optional object. It will return true if the optional contains the car object. If it is empty, it will return false. So in the first case, we are having the car object, so it will return true. So we call the get method to get the car object out, then call the show details method. If the optional object is empty, it will go to the else part, then we print empty optional. Okay, so now let us run this code and see the output. See, here we are getting the details. Suppose we pass the C1, right? We uncomment the line number 14 and we pass C1. C1 is having null value. So in this case, what will happen? Let us run this code and see the output. See, in this case, it will print a empty optional. So in that case, we are not getting the null pointer exception. So optional is used to avoid null pointer exception.